The very first episode of the Epicurious show, 4 Levels of Cooking, involved one of America's most iconic and beloved treats, the chocolate chip cookie. Cookies that were made by amateur cook Alina, home cook Lorenzo, and professional baker Penny. And I've always wondered, which one is the best? So, I'm going to be making all 3 of the chocolate chip cookies featured on the show, and I'll taste them all, see which one I like the best. Alright, so I'm going to be starting with the level 3 cookies, the ones that Penny made, because they are going to take the longest to make. So to get started, I'm going to use a device that I have never actually owned or used before. A smoking gun. What do I have a smoking gun for? Oh, because I'm about to smoke some butter. So supposedly, Penny smokes her butter to add a bit of savoriness and also help cut the sweetness a little bit. I'm gonna poke a little hole. Got these little wood pellets that I'm gonna put in the top. Then we ignite. Is it? Okay, there's smoke coming out of this part, so that I'm guessing that's a good sign. I guess it probably takes like 10-15 minutes, so I'm just gonna let this do its thing while I focus on my other ingredients. Okay, well, it's definitely getting smoky in there. Probably should have wrapped this a bit tighter. Okay, I'm getting a bit scared now. I think I'm just gonna turn it off. Maybe whatever smoke is in there will be enough. Okay, moving on from that smoky experience. Next I'm gonna get my dry ingredients together. Being a professional chef, Penny does weigh her ingredients, so that's what I'm going to do. Alright, switched over to my nifty little neck tripod. Combine 11 ounces of flour, half a teaspoon of baking soda. Should be quite nice. Not much of a surprise there. Also half a teaspoon of baking powder. So the baking powder plus the baking soda is going to give you a slightly thicker cookie. Penny also uses sea salt as opposed to kosher salt. Sea salt has some of the impurities on it, which makes it a bit more flavorful. Whisk that up a little bit. Great. Now I'll work on my wet ingredients. Okay, now for wet ingredients, we start off with some sugar, obviously. Some brown sugar, pretty classic for a cookie, gives it a bit more richness. And let's not forget that smoked butter. It vaguely smells like a campfire. Okay, just gonna beat these guys together, get them combined. For eggs, it's quite simple. We just have some whole egg plus an egg yolk. The egg yolk adds a bit of extra richness. And then instead of vanilla extract, we're going fancy schmancy by using a fresh vanilla bean. Just scrape out all those tiny little seeds. Vanilla goes in. I'm ready to add the dry ingredients. Yep, just good. You want to be careful not to over-mix the dough once you've added the flour. Just want to get it combined. Now it's time for the best part. Okay, for this recipe, I decided to splurge a little bit and get the fancy Belgian couverture chocolate. Actually, let me just do a little quality control. All right, in goes 8 whole ounces. So we'll let these kind of break up a bit. Per Penny's instructions, I'm going to be freezing the cookie dough for 24 hours. So what I want to do there is use this little disher to portion out the dough. Certainly a lot easier to do this now versus later when they are frozen. I'm going to freeze these guys for 24 hours. Then I'll come back tomorrow while I'll make the level 1 and the level 2 cookies. Then I'll bake them all off and we'll finally do a taste test. Okay, tomorrow is now today. It's a gorgeous day here in Washington, by the way. Certainly a great day for making cookies. The level 3 cookies are still in the freezer. They're still waiting for their time. So, in the meantime, I'm going to focus on the level 1 cookies that were made by Alina. Gonna do this exactly like how she did it on the show. You know, haphazardly measuring this, tamp down the flour, you know, try to get it even, going with some baking soda. And then I'm actually not gonna add any additional salt to this because I accidentally grabbed salted butter the last time I went to the grocery store. So I'm gonna kind of make up for that by not adding any additional salt to my cookies. I'm sure it'll be fine. Okay, there's the dries. Now let's do the wet. Again, just kind of, you know, eyeballing 3/4 of a cup of sugar. And now for some brown sugar. And then rather than like creaming her butter, she actually melted her butter a little bit in the microwave. So I'm off to go do that. I don't want it like fully melted. I just want it kind of half melted. Okay, butter goes in. I mean, since it is kind of melted, it should mix into the dough a bit easier. Also, just a little bit of vanilla. Very classic. All right, I'll just whisk that up a little bit, get it combined. Now I want to add in my egg, cracking that directly in, because, you know, there's no chance that any shell could get in. Flour goes in. Just kind of mix that until it starts, well, yeah, starts looking more like a dough. Gonna switch over to a spatula here. Actually, I think now is a good time to add my chocolate. Generally, when I bake at home, I like to use Ghirardelli. I love the flavor of Ghirardelli. It's what I know. Want to be generous. There's no such thing as too much chocolate in a chocolate chip cookie. Okay. Yeah, that looks pretty nice. Of course, I'll have to see what it's like once I bake it. All right, level 1 dough is done. Level 3 dough is done. Now it's time to move on to the level 2 cookie dough. This is the one made by Lorenzo. You're gonna see a few differences between this and the level 1 dough, which I will point out as I go. First off, Lorenzo was a lot more careful about measuring out his dry ingredients. Giving it the old scoop and sweep. Pretty much the most accurate you can get with cups. And right away, I'm noticing that that's allowing the flour to fit in this little bowl a bit better. Flour for the level 1 cookie was overflowing a bit, so, you know, that might lead to something different. Okay. Once again, adding some baking soda. And again, I'd add salt now if it wasn't for the fact that I have salted butter. Now, one thing that Lorenzo did differently from the other two is he actually used softened butter for his cookie dough, whereas the other two melted their butter. So now I'm a little curious to see if that makes a difference in the final texture of the cookie. I'm gonna go cream this butter together with the sugar and brown sugar, and we'll be right back. That look good. Oh, jeez. All right, this spatula is a bit stiffer. Now, one thing Lorenzo did differently is he actually used 3 eggs in his dough, whereas the other 2 used 2. It's probably worth noting that I'm doing a half batch of each of these recipes because I live alone and I am not a maniac. Now I'll add in the flour and baking soda. But in addition to chocolate chips, Lorenzo also chopped up a bar of bittersweet chocolate and mixed that in as well. I think using multiple kinds of chocolate in a cookie is genius. You get a variety of flavors. Goes into the dough. And of course the chocolate chips. Okay, here we are. It is finally time to bake. Here we have the level 1 cookie dough. This is the level 2 cookie dough. And in here we have the level 3 cookie dough. Visually they all look nice, although when does cookie dough ever not look good? So I'm gonna portion these guys up and bake them. Now, these cookies are gonna bake at different times, plus I only have 2 sheet pans. So I'm gonna bake these separately, and we'll take them out when they're ready, and we'll get to tasting them once they're all ready. Starting with the level 1 cookies, Alina just kind of took a spoon and, scooped out little blobs of dough. With how small they are, they should only take about 10 to 15 minutes to bake. Okay, level 1 cookies are baked. We're now gonna get the level 2 cookies going. Just like with Penny, Lorenzo scooped out his cookie dough with an ice cream scoop. A generally great way to make sure that your cookies are the same size and shape, and therefore will bake evenly. These are a bit bigger, so obviously they're gonna bake a bit longer, probably more like 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, it is time to finally bake the level 3 cookies. Now, the nice part about this recipe is that, well, the cookies are already rolled out. Just need to put them on a pan and bake them. One last thing before they go into the oven is Penny topped her cookies with this smoked sea salt, just to kind of amplify that smoky flavor that we put into the cookies. Now, given that these cookies are, well, frozen, they are going to take a bit longer to bake than the other 2. More like 25 to 30 minutes. So I'll just put them in now and pull them out when they're done. Okay, after all that, we are finally at the taste test. These are the level 1 chocolate chip cookies. Here are the level 2 chocolate chip cookies. And here are the level 3 chocolate chip cookies. They all look nice, but which one tastes the best? That's what I'm about to find out. Starting with the level 1. Now, it is a bit smaller than the other 2, but let's see how it tastes. A little bit crunchy, which isn't bad. I mean, generally chocolate chip cookies, I prefer, a chewier, softer cookie, but, if someone made these for me, I wouldn't be mad. Now, let's try the level 2 cookie. It is obviously a bit bigger than the level 1. I'm really glad I'm doing this, side by side like this, because there is a bit of a texture difference between this one and the first one. It's a little bit softer, which I like. And plus, adding in that bittersweet chocolate really does make a difference. And last but not least, we have the level 3 chocolate chip cookies. Now, these guys were just pulled from the oven, so they're still nice and warm. It probably would have been great if I could taste all 3 cookies when they were still warm like this. It's just that with different baking times, I just want to make sure that they all had a chance to bake evenly. These are considerably thicker than both of the other 2. That could probably have something to do with the baking powder that went into them. Do see little specks of that smoked salt on top. It smells kind of smoky. All right, time for the taste. All right, yeah, that's a pretty good cookie. The smokiness does come through. That taste kind of reminds me of a toasted marshmallow. The big question now is, which one is the best? Level 1 is fine. I mean, if you like a crunchier cookie, they're great. Level 3, they tasted nice. I mean, among all the chocolate that I've had, this by far stands out as the best. But, the process of smoking my butter is just kind of weird to me. I don't think that's something I can see myself doing. I think for just me as a regular home baker, I'm going to say that the level 2 of chocolate chip cookies are the best. Although honestly, I would happily eat any of these. What episode of 4 Levels of Cooking should I review next? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe.